All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the MMA Plug presented to you by Mile High Sports. I'm Jordan Kurtz, joined here alongside my partner, Dave Carpinello of Punch Drunk Gamer. We are joined with a very special guest today. We have the Queen of Spades, Shayna Baszler. Shayna, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right. Staying busy, so that's always good.
That's awesome. Love to hear that. Real quick, before we get too deep into the thick of things, where can people follow you along?
You can follow me. I am QOS Baszler on everything, except for Twitch, where I'm QO Spades.
Okay, there you have it right there, folks. So make sure that you give her a follow along there. Now, we want to give you your flowers here real quick, just given the significance of everything going on this weekend. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, this is women's MMA royalty right here. You have one of the original women's four horsemen. You have a member of the Ultimate Fighter, Team Rousey versus Team Tate, a veteran of the UFC, of Invicta, of Elite XC, of Strikeforce, also a multiple-time champion in the WWE and NXT, and a successful professional wrestler across many of other different promotions out there. So again, we just want to make sure that we're giving you your flowers right away so people know exactly who it is that they're tuning into. Dave, you want to throw any more sugar on that?
No, I think you about covered you, but you did forget avid video gamer.
Yep.
Heavy metal fan. That about covers it.
Well, that's your run of the world. So I'm glad that I have you to pivot off on the talk there, right there. But, real quick, just to dive into the thick of things and with significance right now, Shayna, this weekend, what was the first thing that went through your mind when you saw this matchup with Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano get announced?
Well, here's the thing. I've been sitting on the knowledge of that fight happening for quite a while. I will even say long enough that I thought, oh, something didn't work out. It's not going to happen. But so like Ronda first told me that she was going to do this. Golly, it was like she was still pregnant. Like she hadn't even had her second baby yet, and was kind of mentioning it to me, just throwing it out into the ether to maybe come be like a grappling partner for her camp and whatnot. And yeah, the first thing I thought was like, this is crazy, but man, that would be a huge fight. That's I mean, the knee-jerk reaction was like, that's crazy, but wow, that would be a huge fight.
So that to be said, the relationship is still really strong. You guys are still on great terms, still communicating, so on and so forth.
Yeah, we talk quite a bit. I mean, we worked, side by side in WWE. So I saw her all the time. And then yeah, when she left, we still text each other. We'll FaceTime. When she was getting back into like cold plunging, I think I was on the rotation of people. She would FaceTime to like distract her from the pain of the cold. But yeah, we stay in touch for sure.
You've always been a pretty, calm and a chiller than the other side of the pillow, cooler than a cucumber sort of personality or demeanor, in contrast to Ronda being a lot more of a, for lack of a better term, a lightning rod for controversy at times, or choosing the polarizing route. Does that ever kind of impact things like in the personal discussions, or is it just something that she's just so naturally in the moment and relishing the role that she plays that it just doesn't really factor into anything else that she does that way?
Well, I mean, I think anyone that anyone whose opinion on the matter I care about knows me, and anyone and would know me enough to like ask if they had like, is Ronda however, or whatever. And I think that Ronda, to her credit, just doesn't care. I mean, somewhat to her detriment at times, maybe you could argue. She just says what comes to her head. When you talk about no filter, it sounds so cliche, and it's not that she has no filter, it's that she's going to tell you, she's not going to bite her tongue. Like she's going to tell you exactly what's on her mind. And the thing about Ronda, that love her or hate her, she owns what she says. She's never to my memory, she's never backpedaled. She has apologized. She has she's said some controversial things at times, and then later admitted she's changed her mind or that it wasn't the right way to say things or whatever. But she's never backpedaled. And as much as Ronda has always been brilliant in the way of like selling fights and selling herself as a brand, she also has never come out and said that's what she's doing, which on a pro wrestling side, it's like keeping kayfabe. And I'm not saying that she's faking it. She's not. That's part of the reason it works so well. But she's never, I know it's a lot of like controversy in the MMA discussion right now with Strickland and some big time reporters being like, why did he take back what he said? And you're never going to hear that kind of discussion when it comes to Ronda, and like I said, for better or for worse, but I think that that's the thing that got her where she is, there's been plenty of fighters. You could even make the argument that there's been better fighters, but she got the notoriety she did because of the way she can sell fights, and she sells fights because she doesn't care to be PC.
From a meritocratic standpoint, there's been other champions that have followed her that have done more in terms of, fighting quote unquote accomplishments. But I still challenge to the fact this day that Ronda is the biggest superstar still that women's MMA has ever seen. You kind of mentioned a couple of talking points there. Do you think that it was her willingness to not care about what anybody said, to be that polarizing figure who just let the controversy kind of roll off of her back like water to a duck's feathers? Do you think that it was her willingness just to be that trailblazer and not really care what the critiques or what the controversy were, that if it weren't for her willingness to do that women's MMA would not be where it is today?
For sure. I think that can I swear on this show?
Yes.
I think Ronda's her strongest when she's telling you to fuck off. And whether that's in the fight or in the sale of the fight, or when you look at her career, so you even think about like the Dana White, everyone goes back to Dana White saying women will never be in the UFC, and I think Ronda had a chip on her shoulder and was like fuck off, and did what she did to open that door for women in the UFC. And then when people are like, "Oh, this girl's gonna kill her," fuck off. And when someone talks shit, she'll talk shit back because fuck off. And I think when you give Ronda, and I mean, even looking to the future, right? So there's been some talk, and I don't know the whole story. We don't always talk shop. We kind of tend to avoid it actually, but with the UFC kind of lowballing her when she approached them about the idea of this fight. And now her being like, okay, fuck off. I'm going to make this be the biggest fight ever. And I think that is the thing that's, like I said, it's made her an Olympian, and it made her a champion. And it's, to this day, like you said, you could say, I mean, you could argue Amanda Nunes, who beat her and then went and beat Cyborg and then won the title again. Like, sure, on paper, you could say that she's all these things, but as far as like notoriety and how much of a draw and the what that meant for the advancement of the sport, no one can argue. You can hate Ronda, but you can't argue her effect and what that meant for all of that.
Absolutely.
Taking aside your personal relationship with Ronda, how would you break down the fight with Carano?
I think so. Here's the thing. I think like if Ronda could get a hold of Gina, it's like start the stopwatch. Gina's whole thing is going to have to be keeping Ronda from getting inside and grabbing a hold of her, which you can say, okay, that playbook is out. It's been done. But Gina has to, I don't know how to explain it. I always said, even when Ronda was in the UFC and I was living and training with her, Holly Holm, for example, is the exact like kryptonite for Ronda's style. So when you look at someone like Holly Holm, she's a counter fighter. When you watch her fights, she had a fight, I think this is a while back now, but she had a fight with Raquel Pennington that comes up in my mind where if you don't engage Holly, she's not very aggressive and forward, right? So Ronda is very aggressive and forward. And so, I mean, that plays right into Holly being a counter fighter. Ronda knew at that time, knew nothing but move forward, go get him. And I think I think Gina's a little more aggressive in that aspect than Holly is. And so I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult for Gina to keep her from getting inside and grabbing a hold of her. And I think it's going to go to the ground. And as much as you can tell, I don't know if people have been following the lead up to this fight and all that, but Ronda seems a lot more relaxed. You know, it's not this personal vendetta that she has or creates or whatever. But I think knowing Ronda, she has like 2 speeds and it's on or off. And I think even if in her mind, it's like, oh, we should not end this really fast because people are buying this, or not buying, but like people are watching this event and we want to give people an exciting thing. Like in the moment, Ronda is going to try to finish it as soon as she grabs a hold of her. So that's my prediction is I think Gina's always had a really strong teep. And I think she'll try to keep Ronda off with that. And I think she would have to do that for 5 rounds. Is it 5 or 3? It's 5, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think her schedule for 3 5s.
3 5s. Well, whatever. She's going to have to do that for the duration of the fight. I think Ronda is, she's one of the best in the world as far as judo. And I think crossing over to like no-gi judo, she's one of the best in the world. I've seen her hold her own with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts. Her ground game is phenomenal. And I think even if Gina's weakness has always been her ground game. And I understand it was almost 20 years ago. But like even against Cyborg, she tried to pull guard and end up pulling her into mount. I don't know if people remember that, but just little things like that where it's like there were definite holes in her ground game. And I think even if she's doing this fight camp, let's say they've known about it without telling anyone for a year, I don't think that amount of training makes up for Ronda's expertise on the ground. So it's really going to be like, can she keep Ronda off of her for the duration of the fight?
I would have to agree with that. And I think that just from the optics on the outside looking in, Ronda looks like she's been dialed in for this camp, just from the physique and from her appearance. Like she's to the point where she's so jacked and yoked right now that you see her traps starting to flare when she's going on her rant against Hunter Campbell and against some of these people. So like, I feel like, she's definitely crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's when it comes to the conditioning department.
And she's had 2 babies, man. She looks like more jacked than she did when she was fighting at 135. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Definitely. Dave, do you have anything else on the fight?
Do you think there's any issue? You said she's not as focused on Gina as far as the animosity goes, with her past opponents. Do you think that could be a problem in the fight with her focused on so many of the other aspects of this whole event? Plus, each day it seems like she does pick a new person, like the UFC executive that she went after the other day. Do you think that's going to play at all a factor in this fight?
I think if anything, that's what will make her dangerous, is that if she didn't have, like, Ronda is the most competitive person I've ever met. I make this joke about when we were living together, she had a dog, Mochi, that would like go out in the yard and poop. And like, I one time tricked Ronda into cleaning up so that no one else would have to, by being like, I swear I cleaned up the yard like faster than anyone has ever done it. Just turning it into a competition like that, she went out and cleaned up all of Mochi's shit all over the yard. and we laugh about it. We laugh about it today. In saying that, making the fight matter in that way is what makes her dangerous, because it might not be directed at Gina, but there are specific I guess enemies in her mind, right? So I think the importance, I think she understands the importance of what this could mean for the future of MMA, the sport as a whole. And she's been in that spot before, and she went on like a 10-year tear. So I don't think like I said, I don't think I was a sparring partner and a close friend of hers for years. And she doesn't hold back on us in the gym. Like I said, she's got on or off. She would beat the snot out of us. I don't think that's going to be a problem when the bell rings. I think it's the only difference you see is the lead up to the fight. She's obviously not, there's nothing for her to point at about Gina that's upset. She's been really gracious, in fact, and like given Gina her flowers a lot in almost every interview. So that's the difference. But when the bell rings, it's like, I don't know, she's competed plenty against friends and people she doesn't hate. It's not that. Ronda's fuck you for this fight is to everyone that's doubting her, to the UFC for lowballing her, to she mentioned Hunter Campbell making disparaging remarks or whatever. But these are the things that are the fuck you for her this time around. It's just different that the fuck you isn't the person in front of her.
So that being said, I mean, with her trying to enter now into this promoter role, if things go well for her on Saturday, I think it's safe to say that she's going to try to put the foot on the throat and go, all gas, no brakes, pushing forward with this MVP promotion. But should things maybe go sideways, it's been kind of precedent for her in the past that she hasn't handled losses in the best fashion. Do you think that maybe throws off her potential path as a promoter, or does she still stick to the course from the business end of things, even though things may not have went her way as a fighter?
I don't think for what she has planned for the future that a loss will change any of that. I don't want to say a loss won't matter to her because, like I said, she's the most competitive person I've ever met. But I think to the extent that that she wants to change the course, she like. Man, I don't want to make it. I am always really reluctant to say, because people think I say this from a biased standpoint because I'm friends with her, but completely unbiased, just as someone who knows what goes on behind the scenes. Ronda does so much for fighting and for women's wrestling that she never talks about, and that she doesn't care gets talked about. She's doing this, she believes truly, to change fighting. She knows fighters are underpaid. She wants fighters to be able to live off of what they make, even if they're on the undercard. She understands the importance of that, and I think that is more important to her than like the result of this particular fight. I think she's matured in a way. I think motherhood has completely changed her, by the way, like completely changed her. But I think that she understands her legacy isn't tied to one moment, and that her legacy is going to be tied in how she's changed things. Her legacy is the fact that she made it available for women to fight in the UFC, not necessarily that she lost the title. You know what I mean? Which, sure, we all kind of understood that, and that's why she got a lot of heat and all that for the way she took those losses. But like I said, I think motherhood has really matured her. You're talking about someone who has grown up competing on a world level since she was a child, and I think that that's been her world. and it makes her this isn't what I mean, but almost like socially awkward in a way. Like we all understand that because we've had lives outside and we know, this isn't all of life, but it really had been all of her life up to that point. And so now like she fell in love and is married and has kids, and there's a bigger world out there, and I think it's completely changed her outlook on those sorts of things.
Shayna, I think that Ronda really needs to parade you around with her to be her PR agent when she goes on some of these crazy rants and tirades where she has people just gunning for her left and right, because you make her sound so endearing. But Shayna, I want to switch gears real quick here before we tie things up here for you. I don't know if Dave told you, but I'm a massive mark for the business. Like I love the business. So you mentioned a little bit about it earlier, and I'm a big fan of keeping, like, I still want to believe in kayfabe. I still want that illusion, that to suspend disbelief, to be able to keep the aura of the show alive when it's not the show. Do you think that it's much harder in today's world with shows like with the documentary series like the WWE has on Netflix right now, to the potential overexposure with social media and with all the fan access that's available to now than say like, in the 2000s, 90s, and the generations before, where you really only saw the superstars or the performers week to week when you got them on TV? Now it's a 24-hour cycle with digital and with everything else that's out there.
So there's a couple things that I'd say about this. So I coach part-time at NXT right now, and so this is like a discussion that comes up often. And I think two things. I think a bigger impact than like social media and the secret being out. I think a bigger impact is the fact that like I don't want to use like buzzwords, but like cancel culture, because there's a lot of lines that like can't be crossed now because TV ratings and sponsorships and all that kind of stuff. That in the 80s, I mean, in the 80s there would have been like a, a Palestinian faction warring with the like this would have been a thing.
There's
And
no
we just
Bubba
can't
Ray
do that now.
You ranting to somebody in the first
Yeah.
row.
Yeah. And I
No
just
irons.
yeah, yeah. We would have had like we would have like a MAGA faction like parading around. Like we just can't. We couldn't even do like I was just watching, like it came up in my feed, like Claudio's old WWE stuff, and we are the people, we the people, real Americans. Like even that couldn't be a faction now. And that was like recent history. You know what I mean? And so I think that has more of an effect on stuff, because it's like you're dancing with like TV censorship. Like just recently, right? Rhea and Jade got into like a real beef on Twitter, and then they didn't even touch it on TV when they maybe should have. But then they got a little scared, like, okay, but if it gets too personal, and then like I think that's more of a problem than the secret being out. And the reason I think that is because the secret is out about everything, right? We know that's not a real dragon in Game of Thrones. We know, I know if I go to Vegas and watch Chris Angel do a magic show, like he's not actually cutting that woman in half. But even with that knowledge, if he does his job right, everyone comes away from that show and they're going, "Oh my God, I saw every angle. I have no idea. He had to have cut that woman in." Like, I saw every angle. It's crazy. And so I don't think the secret being out is as big a problem as like people like to lean on. It just changes how we can do things. Like wrestling fans aren't fans because they believe, they're fans because they're ready to participate in the story that is going on. Right? They're willing, they're a willing participant in the belief of what's going on. And so you have to try really hard to make them not believe. And sure, you can point at like IWC, and there's people on Twitter that will point at every like mistake, even when it's not that big a deal and they think they know everything. That's going to be always. But like for the most part, people go to a wrestling show and they're there to believe, and they will give you the benefit of the doubt unless you work extra hard to take that away. And so I think that like the fact that I can't cross certain lines, because if you got personal with me, I would get personal back. And we've all said some crazy shit to a friend, or to even not even a friend, to someone close to us that we did not mean, and it was crossing the line. We've all said some shit to someone that crossed the line and we shouldn't have. And you know, I think if wrestling was allowed to do that more, we could get more of that. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. I mean, I could sit here and nerd out talking about different stuff in the wrestling world all day long. I mean,
yeah, I
one of
love
my
it. I mean, that's what I do now. So
is you at the performance center talking to somebody about just like the art of storytelling and building a program, and you're just talking about how just a couple of little things within that particular moment sell to the crowd. You know, like I can go through layers and layers of this as far as being a nerd. I see Dave over here looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about, you nerd?
I stopped watching when Hogan retired.
Great example. Great example.
But I mean, you know, it brings it all back because sports entertainment, right, is we're talking about like MMA. MMA is pro wrestling. And I think that this stigma that pro wrestling is fake, or everyone knows what it is, makes us forget like MMA and pro wrestling came from the same place. It's just one group of people decided, you know what, we could make a lot more money if we make sure that you win this fight instead of me. So I'm going to let you win this. You know what I mean? Just split the pot with me 50-50. And then you had this arm of people that were like, screw that. I'm keeping the purity of it. We're going to stay this way. And I mean, even to this day, pro wrestling as an industry makes more money than MMA as an industry. And so that just comes from because this moment in time where it branched off, where this carnival competition of fighting branched off, and one side decided we want to make money, and one side decided they wanted to keep the purity of it. So we talk about someone like Ronda, or we can name these people: Ronda, Connor. That like these are the people that were superstars because of the entertainment aspect. And so when you talk sports entertainment, it's all the same. And I think both could learn by watching each other. Like pro wrestlers could learn a lot about wrestling by watching fighting, and pro fighting could learn a lot about could better itself by watching wrestling. And the difference between pro and amateur is what? It's the money you make. So you got to learn to make money if you want to be the best pro fighter. That's part of the job too, not just what you do in the gym.
Totally.
You said you're coaching at NXT now. I've also seen videos of you wrestling pretty much every weekend. What are you doing now, and what organizations are you working with?
I'm just wrestling independent now. So you know, if a place has someone they want me to go beat up, I do it. So I'm just generally wrestling independent. I'm also doing seminars, pro wrestling seminars, and coaching part-time at NXT when that is available, and working a lot. I work a lot at NXT with people who have a shoot background. So a lot of people that came from like collegiate wrestling, or there's some MMA fighters. There's a few boxers in there. So just I explain it like I'm a translator, because you know, in the world of pro wrestling, especially the way the WWE specifically makes a TV product, you know, they're going to hire someone that's like, okay, they saw this D1 gymnast we could teach them to be on TV. So they put them there. So they teach them something simple, a hip toss for TV. So they're not going to spend the time in the gym that like a judo person spends sparring and learning all the intricacies of a hip toss. So they're going to teach like this beautiful looking TV hip toss. But when you get someone that is a judo Olympian that comes in and you're teaching them TV hip toss that you teach to people that don't know stuff, you're actually teaching them backwards. And so I'm the person that could come in and go, you already know how to do hip toss, just do it the way you know. And I can translate for those people. So
It's great.
You had some involvement with Josh Barnett's Bloodsport. How disappointed were you to see that he closed the doors on that operation?
Yeah, man. I think the scary part for me is like Bloodsport was popular enough that I feel like somebody else is going to try to pick it up, and I just don't think it will be the same. I'm not saying it won't be successful, because Josh's whole thing was, for people that don't know, Bloodsport is a specific style that is more realistic, more gritty, harder hitting than general pro wrestling. There's no ropes on the ring, so you're not going to be like running ropes and jumping off turnbuckles and stuff like that. For people that care, it's going to be more akin to like UWFI, not quite UWFI, but more akin to that. The problem is there's only a few wrestlers that understand how to work that style, where nothing is planned. It's all on the fly. And in order to draw an audience, you have to book kind of bigger names. And because there's only a handful of wrestlers that can work that style, you end up kind of booking the same wrestlers over and over. And Josh kind of understood, okay, it's hit this ceiling where I either need funding to put shows on more often, to build names of like lesser known wrestlers that can work this way, or I need to start booking other names, and that's going to water down the product. And so that's why he killed it. So I totally understand it. I will always have opportunities, and I love working that style. That's the style of pro wrestling, obviously, as a fighter, that like is very conducive to what I do. But the big fear for me, is that someone's going to pick it up and it's going to go that other direction of like kind of being watered down and not quite the same.
One last time there, Shayna, where can people give you a follow?
I am QOS Baszler on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. There's an underscore in it, QOS underscore, but everything has a blue check except for Twitter, because I'm cheap like that. But and then QO Spades on Twitch, stream a couple times a week. So
there you have it right there, folks. The Queen of Spades, Shayna Baszler, one of the OGs, the royalty of women's MMA. Also, as mentioned, a longtime fixture of professional wrestling and sports entertainment out there. Want to say thank you so much for joining us along. Is there anybody else out there that you want to give a shout out or a mention to?
I off the top of my head, I don't know, just really honestly though, actually, the fans that have followed me, man, I can't tell you, like, I always appreciate, obviously the following I gained being on a platform like WWE, but it's always makes me smile a little bit when someone's like, I followed you since the Ultimate Fighter. I followed you in Invicta. Like that means a lot to me. Cause I don't, time happens, but I appreciate not being forgotten about in that realm.
Love to hear it right there, folks. Make sure that you give a follow along, because still great things coming out there, and all the behind the scenes content or the stuff that comes from the Performance Center. For if you're a mark like me, if you're a nerd who loves to get into the little subtleties and the niche aspects of the business, great content to be able to consume there on that side of things right there, folks. But I'm Jordan Kurtz with the MMA Plug on Miles High Sports, along here with Dave Carpinello, a Punch Drunk Gamer. We got Danny Bailey behind the boards. As always, we want to say thank you all so much for following us along here, and we will see you next week.